Hey, what's up, everybody? Bitcoin hit 60,000, but you guys already know that. It's all about the altcoins. This video is going to be about Theta, but I'm going to touch on Bitcoin real quick to see what it's doing. This is definitely an important update. You're not going to want to miss it. But before I get into it, I just want to mention one thing. A lot of coins pop off at different times. First of all, more people make mistakes during a bull market than they do during a bear market. The biggest mistake you make is, for example, let's say you are in a coin, right? And it's not moving. And then you see another coin go up 20%. And you're like, man, I feel like I'm missing out. And then another coin goes up 15%. Oh no, I'm missing out. So you sell your existing coin, you go chase a coin that's already up 20%. Then the following day, your coin pumps up 50% or whatever. And that's sort of like musical chairs, right? It's sort of the biggest mistake people make. And if I can give one word of advice to myself, because I can't give financial advice, but if I can give advice to myself, it's to stay planted. You know, if you, depending obviously on what coin you're holding, right? And depending what the chart looks like and depending on many different factors. But chances are rotations will come back to your coin, whatever it is you're holding, and you will reap those rewards. But the worst thing you can do is, jump around. Like, I'll give you an example. Look at Filecoin real quick. On the top part of your screen, you can see it's up 10%, or actually 11%, right? But if you scroll down, look at Theta, it's down 1%. So one person might think, oh, I'm missing out. I'm going to sell my Theta and I'm going to go chase Filecoin. But then once Filecoin chills out, then Theta starts to go. Or what it can do is really torture you, right? You go, well, it's up 11%. I'm just going to wait. I'm going to stay planted in Theta. Then the next day, it's up another 10%. Oh, man, that sucks. I'm going to wait. Then the next day, it's up 30%. Oh, I can't take it anymore. I got to sell it and chase it. And then, boom, that's when it happens, right? And that's kind of what happens to a lot of people. It's happened to me before. And I know the psychological feelings of how that sort of transpires. And I'm just saying, before I get into the video, don't let that be you. I know it feels painful, like, if you're holding a coin and it's not moving and you see all the other ones starting to pop off and yours isn't, whatever it is you may hold, you're not happy with the velocity that it's pumping, you know what I mean? So, but remember, Bitcoin moves first, and look what's happening, right? Bitcoin is down today, but look at the alts, they're pumping, right? And that's what happens. A lot of people, I'm assuming, sold their alts. Of course, not you guys, but I'm sure a lot of people around the world couldn't handle it anymore, and they sold their alts, and they chased Bitcoin, right? Because the narrative out there right now is Bitcoin's did it. It's got to 60K. Somehow that's a major milestone. It is a major milestone. And the narrative is, okay, all-time high, right? But we haven't gotten to the all-time high yet. There's a couple things I don't like about it, and I'll talk about that now. Do I think Bitcoin is going to hit an all-time high? I actually do. I actually think it's very possible. As you know, I'm one of the people who was thinking this here. So I gave a couple ideas. One of the ideas was to say that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this would be a bear market, a retracement, sort of reaccumulation, and then a continuation. That doesn't look like it's happening, right? It looks like it's blowing right through the retracements. It's back at the all-time high, right? Near the all-time high, I should say. It's still another $8,000, $9,000 away from the all-time high. But still. And then another idea would be this is 1, 2. All of this is 3. Then you have this A, B, C, this flat right here. See how the B wave took out the A wave? That's usually a flat. And then now we're in wave 5, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, how big is wave 5? Well, you want to have 5 waves in wave 5. And right now we only have 2, right? Oh, I'm sorry, we have 3. We have 1, 2, and 3, right? So I don't know. Let's, 3 might not be finished. So here comes to the ideas of what I think Bitcoin is happening now. So obviously the first was rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, blast off. Never happened, right? That doesn't mean it still can't happen, because sometimes we can reaccumulate, and then reaccumulate and then go, right? Sometimes we can reaccumulate at the top. That's very rare, but we have to know Bitcoin is very, very bullish, right? So they like to make us feel good during election years, right? Everything is great, everything is perfect, my portfolio is up. Why do they do that? Why do they make us feel, it just happens. It's so odd. Like every election year, Bitcoin seems to just do really well. Or not Bitcoin itself, but traditional markets. And the reason why is because if you're you have a 401k and it's big time up. You have your investment portfolio, it's big time up. What do? You feel good about yourself. You feel confident. And what does that make you do? It makes you what? Spend more money, right? You feel like I have more wealth. You feel like you have more, and you do, but it's unrealized gains, right? So it's not realized until you hit sell. But at the end of the day, people who have just for example, like crypto YouTube, right? Like let's say somebody goes live, and during a bear market. Well, guess what? That person's not going to get a lot of tips, right? Because you know what I mean. So, but let's say there's a bull market and markets are popping off. Well, now people are going to be very generous, right? They're going to be euphoric and positive and giving, right? But as soon as the market turns around, they're going to be, not so smiley, right? And that's just the way it is. And no fault to anybody, but that's just the way it is. And okay, so let's go back to the market. What do we think? Well, for me, this is looking an awful lot like a beautiful rounded bottom. And a couple of different ways a rounded bottom can happen. Number one, the rounded bottom continues to come up, right? And we start, maybe we face a little bit of resistance because, come on, it's the all-time high. You're going to face some resistance. And not just a little bit, a lot. So the problem with the way Bitcoin topped, Bitcoin's never topped like this before, right? And people kind of liked it, right? Because it wasn't a blow-off top. I'll tell you why that's not good. Because look at this. When we broke out of the all-time high going back here, it was nothing. It was a little tiny peanut right there, right? So it was a blow-off top. When you have a blow-off top in a major bear market, and then you have a bull market, look right here. It was pretty easy to break out. That's all it needed to break out. But now look at what we have. Now we have a lot more fighting to get through. Not only do we have the little blow off top here, but we have all of this distribution. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot. This whole thing is one big giant distribution phase right here, right? And then not only that, but then we also have this resistance, right? So we have 1, 2, all of this, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 points, right? So that means, I'm not saying it's going to be 6 times harder, but I'm just saying, look at this. Look at the difference. This is only one little area. So it was easy to crush through that area because there wasn't a lot of there wasn't a lot of, I should say, like a volume profile built into that price zone, right? And sometimes it could be a good thing, sometimes it could be a bad thing. So what does that mean? So that means we're probably going to face resistance, right? And so how does that look? Well, if we're going to break out into a new all-time high, then we can either, play around in here, get to the bull market support band, break out, right? Of course, we could just continue going up. You wouldn't want to put it past Bitcoin. Bitcoin, what it likes to do is it puts us through a phase of where people get complacent, especially during a bear market and especially during a recovery. People start to feel like, it's got to pull back. And even me, like I thought it's got to pull back. But when Bitcoin turns on its lights and it's in beast mode, then it really makes people second guess, like, whoa, it always surprises people, especially like if you go back in 2016, 2017, right, where you had this monster wave. But you see what Bitcoin did. It went up, pulled back, went up, pulled back, went up, pulled back, went up, pulled back, went up, pulled back. So as that continues to happen, people get used to that. They get used to that environment. So then once it starts continuing higher, right? So for example, let's say you get somewhere up in here. Well, now you're not really pulling back as much, right? Especially when you break out. You get these little pullbacks, but you're used to these bigger pullbacks along the way, and then eventually you just get parabolic, and then people get used to that. And when it goes parabolic, people get used to it, and then say there is no pullback. So then when a pullback occurs, it ends up not being a pullback. It ends up being the start of a bear market. So a couple different ways this could happen. We have this cup here, right? So what do you think happens after a big cup? You get a handle. Not saying that has to happen, right? But if we do get a handle, then that would still qualify for my original thesis, which is rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways breakout. So rise, crash, retrace, it didn't happen down here, didn't happen down here, right? It still could. So that's the whole thing. You don't know where reaccumulation will set in. We don't even know if we're going to get reaccumulation at all, because everybody has the same access to data as I do, right? So I'm looking at this bear market. I'm looking at this bear market, and I'm saying, okay, if Bitcoin, and still Bitcoin been around the longest, but it still is a baby. It's a baby compared to the historical stock market, where you can go back many different phases and look at different points of history to get a better indication, right? We only have two, and the two are drastically different than each other. Now, you have this in here, but wouldn't really put any emphasis on that. So you really have two main bear markets. And one of the things I said is, look, this could be something like this, where you have accumulation, you break out, and then you go into accumulation, right? And then once you break out of that, then you're pretty much at the all-time high, right? Well, now it seems that we've skipped this area, because if you go back over here, let me actually put the 9-day chart on. There we go. If you go back over here, you have 1, you have 2, and then I guess you can say this was 3. It was very small, very small. So, and I don't like it because it's in the middle of a wave here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This was that flat pattern that occurred, right? So, one's idea here, and maybe you guys know Crypto Crew University. I think he had a video out. I don't really watch him a lot because his whole his thing is helping new traders and getting aboard the indicators. And I respect the guy. He's great. He's a great guy. But I think he was not on his channel. I think he was talking to Alessio Rastani. So I really like Alessio. He's really cool. So I think they were having a collaboration. And one of the things he stated, right, and he had, remember, this guy has all the fancy indicators and all the amazing things. And not knocking him, but I'm just saying he expected something like this, right, where we top out here. For me, I was saying that's a very big possibility, but let's finish this fifth wave. So we did finish the fifth wave, but I didn't expect that the fifth wave would be this big and to get us back to the all-time high. That's why I'm pleasantly surprised, and I like being pleasantly surprised. So great, that's perfect. So now we're in a circumstance where this has never happened before, right? So even I think Blockchain Backer put out a tweet and said, "Look, we're in uncharted territories. This has never happened before, right?" But guess what? You have to expect the unexpected, and this channel I provide these different all the possibilities that can occur. That is from a reasonable realm of reality, and one of them is breaking out into a new all-time high. Definitely not at the top of my list given the current conditions of what we're seeing here. So it gets to a point where it's like, okay, now we got to take Bitcoin serious because we're at 61K. We have an engulfing candle. So that's the thing, we didn't creep up to the all-time high. We are engulfing into the all-time high. That's one thing you have to keep in mind as well. So, when you look at this, right, here, you could say, well, it's got to be one of these things, or it has to be something like this, where you have a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, go. But look at the way it went up. It went up fast without no base. This had a base, this had a base. So I said, okay, so then let's treat it more like this. So, but look, once we got to this third base, we never went sideways. But that doesn't mean we still can't when we get up to the all-time high. So now we'll talk about that. So this thing can get all the way up here. So now I'm gonna change it to about right there. So this could easily start to consolidate, right? And you kind of want a little consolidation because you want the bull market support band to sort of catch up. Because remember, we never tested it, and that was one of the things during this flatten here is I wanted it to test it. Because if we got that test, then it sort of confirms that this is organic and real. But it came short. We'll see how that affects it later on. But I mean, if you go back in time, look how many times it's tested it right in here. You can see when you break up, look at all those tests, all those candles. You break up, all those tests, all those candles, test, 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 test. I mean, it tested it many times, and that's how you get this major run. So we haven't tested it at all since we broke above. Yes, we did test it here, we did test it here, but we broke below here. So maybe you can say that when us breaking below the bull market support band, wasn't, maybe like you could say, an anomaly, or pretend it wasn't there. But for me, it's there, so it's like you can't really pretend it's not there. But the way it corrected, it's sort of like intertwined with the bull market support band, right? It sort of is coiling around it. So I guess you can say, it was a good holding period at that moment. So now a couple of different things can happen. Like I said, we catch up to the bull market support band, continue higher. and breakout. I do apologize if you hear background noise. They are installing new carpet, so apologize if you hear that. So basically, I kind of want to wrap Bitcoin up here. Yeah, Bitcoin is bullish. It has broken through all the major retracement levels, something I didn't think that could happen that fast, right? At least without some consolidation here. I mean, you sliced right through the 618, you sliced right through the 702, and you sliced right through the 786. That definitely makes Wall Street and everybody else pay attention, right? And then also you have the stock market at an all-time high. So if the stock market broke out, then why can't Bitcoin, right? And that's one of the things I think a lot of people missed, including myself. Like, I was thinking more the stock market is in some type of flat pattern, where you sort of, something like this right here, where you have an all-time high, you have a breakout or breakdown, and then you break out, right? And you can get a little high, you can get a little higher than this, and then it comes down, right? So I was thinking, yeah, the stock market is probably something like that, because how far can the stock market go until it doesn't want to go anymore? Well, decade after decade after decade, it has proven us wrong. So it can go to 100. We can see a Dow 100,000. Maybe you guys heard of his name. I mean, if you guys know Bix Weir, Theta, then you got to know Cliff High. Maybe some of you know Cliff High. Cliff High is a guy who back in the day had these sort of predictive linguistics, sort of these data mining sets, that sort of predicted the language of certain prices in the market, right? So he predicted Bitcoin at the very beginning, I think Litecoin and many other ones, right? I'm not sure about all the ones he did, but he also predicted that the Dow would hit 100,000 at some point. Silver would hit, I think, the $600 level. I think gold, 10,000. Maybe these numbers are off. Don't quote me. But I haven't heard from him in a long time. I think he's still on BitChute, last I've heard. But he doesn't do the predictive linguistics anymore. I'm not sure what happened with all that. I think it was health reasons, or I don't know. So anyway, Bix Weir and Cliff High, those guys were, back in the day, right? And then you had Jay Snip, I think, and then they were all collabing. This was a long time ago. And they were talking about these things. And, you kind of forget that it occurred. But then you kind of look back and think, wait a minute, Cliff High talked about these. And not just markets, but like volcanoes and different types of events that occur, right? So I'm not sure how it works, but that was his whole gig. But anyway, I think that was interesting. So maybe we're on our way to a Dow 100,000, right? Maybe the inflation is going to be so incredible that the markets just go insane, right? It is election year, so we'll see. So anyway, and if that occurs, that's actually good for crypto. But it's actually, when you take profit in an inflated environment, right? It's kind of not so great, because your dollar doesn't go as far as it would when you took profit. Let's say you bought Bitcoin back in 2015 and you took profit over here. Well, back in 2017, houses were relatively cheaper, interest rates were cheaper, right? But anyway, so wrapping up Bitcoin, it sliced through the retracement levels. So I think it has a good possibility. Either it's going to have a cup and a handle and go, right? Or it can consolidate and go, or it could still go down into reaccumulation and go, which would just be a handle, really. So some type of correction in here, not saying that it has to be deep or big or long or whatever. It could just be something minor, or we might not get it at all and break out. That's if we're going to break out into a new all-time high. Let's say we don't. Let's say we don't break out into a new all-time high. Well, then what would the circumstance be? Well, this can turn into a bigger flat, right? Like pretend this is the A wave, right? This is A, and then we go up into a B, and we break out, and it's actually a fake out, and then we come back down for C, and then we go into reaccumulation, and then go. It could happen. I'm not saying that has to happen. That would be the biggest flat in the history of flats, I think. I don't know if that's even possible. But for example, it happened right here. You see how we came down, we broke out, we couldn't sustain the breakout, and then we came down. Not saying that's going to happen, but if we don't consolidate and we don't allow the oscillators to cool down and things to catch up, then it could be a possibility, because when things move too far, too fast, too soon, without having things catch up, like the bull market support band, without things pulling back, then sometimes you can break out, and all it is a liquidity trap. And that gives opportunities for people who didn't sell through here, right, to take profit, right? And remember, the Bitcoin ETF has a role to play in this whole thing. So do you think the Bitcoin ETF has your best interest? The people at BlackRock and all the central banks who created it, who wanted to distract us away from actual real regulation? Because for me, I would like in a world where BlackRock and their clients can just go buy real Bitcoin on an exchange like everybody else. But they like to play the game of repackaging it as a security, and then Bitcoin maxis jump up and down and say, "Yay, we got an ETF." But you do realize that it's a security, right? Not that I say that an ETF is bad. I think it's good because it brings adoption. It brings people into this new space, right? It makes for good headlines and for good FOMO, and thus creating a ripple effect into other coins, right? So, but you have to understand the true intention behind an ETF is what? To essentially distract us away from real regulation, right? Because we all want a regulation, and some of us don't. But you have to understand, if we don't have a proper set of rules, then big billion-dollar entities aren't going to play the game because they don't want to be sued, right? They want to play within the boundaries of the law. And if there's no law and there's no rules, then they're not going to play. So right now, the deep state is taking advantage of the wild, wild west of crypto, right? They don't really want to regulate crypto because they're siphoning off all this money. Once you have regulations, they can't play that game anymore. But then also, they don't want regulations because they don't want the validation of what crypto really is, which is a real asset class that is a competitor of finance and banks, like DeFi versus financial FI, right? So they'll let the little what do they call it, NFTs, they'll let those ride because what is an NFT? That's not a threat really to them. But things like payment systems, like a company named Ripple, who they are trying to sue over and over again, that could be a threat to their situation, because basically Ripple isn't down with the banks, or isn't like basically Ripple, the whole point of it is to keep banks accountable by keeping them more profitable. Because if you're a bank, you're a business, and if you're a payment system, right, you have a lot of friction within the banking system. Basically, blockchain reduces that friction so that things can seamlessly glide, but it also keeps you accountable, right? So if Bitcoin is not going to break out into a new all-time high, I still am going with my original thought, which is rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, go, right? So, because I mean, if you look here, 2023, we're going up, 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 up. Eventually, you're going to have a counter wave, right? Because nothing goes up forever, right? Yeah, you have these counter waves in between here, but those counter waves are a part of a bigger wave. So when is this big wave going to correct? That's the thing. Well, for me, you want to either have an ABC or 5 waves. So it could still technically be an A, B, C, right? Now, I know I'll get a lot of flack for saying that, but again, when people, it's interesting when, because when everybody is convinced that it has to break out into a new all-time high, that's when I start to step back and say, I don't know about that, right? Because there's too many people on one side of the bet. So if everybody's betting long, then the market needs to deleverage, right? Even though it feels, right, because you have all these YouTube videos, you have all the Twitter, you have all the hype, you have all the euphoria, and that saturates your blood, right? It runs through your veins, and you feel like Superman, like no, I can't come down, it has to go up because I'm convinced. But that's usually the trickery in it. I'm not saying that's got to be the case, but if this is a 1 2 3 4 5, you have A, you have 1 2 3, you have B, right? And then you have 1 2 3 4 5, and then you have C. Now maybe 5 isn't finished, maybe C gets way up here, right? I don't know, but the thing is, you have to be cautious of that. I think Bitcoin should have at least some type of consolidation. Now let's go back to what I stated right over here. So one of the things, right, is trying to figure out where this wave is going to end. So if I go right about there, so we're talking, this is our range in here, right? So we broke out, and look how big the base is. The base is big, right? So this base allowed for a bigger breakout. So now we count from this base, right? So you have, now the whole thing is that it can be counted different ways, because I'll count it the traditional way, 1 2 3, and remember this flat right here, A, B, C, and it was right here where we discovered that, because if you look closely, anytime, here's the high right here. So we broke above the high, right? But look what happened. We chopped, and then we broke the high. And that's part of the reason why my videos are long, because I'm not just giving you the answer of the ideas. I'm basically sort of, kind of teaching as well on how I come up with these conclusions. So we're not just breaking out, right, impulsively like this, but you see this 1 2 chop, 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 and then we break out. Anytime you have chop that breaks us out, it's probably a fake out, which means what? It's probably right in here was suggested that it was a flat, and that's exactly what it was. Okay, so now that was wave 4. So let's keep track here. So we have 1 2 3 4, and now we're in wave 5. So now let's count 5 waves in wave 5. And now look at that. We have a 5-wave move. We have 1 2 3 4 5. So that's the 5th of the 5th, right? Of the C leg or of wave 3. So we have 1 2 3 4 5. Right? So now I'll take everything off the screen, and I'm going to zoom in to these 5 waves right here. So let's go down to the 2-hour chart. Okay. So obviously that's 5 waves. So now I'm going to zoom in to this 5th wave, and let's see if we have 5 waves there. So if I zoom in, actually let me zoom into the 30-minute chart, or yeah, let's go to the 30-minute. Okay, so let's see if we have 5 waves here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. So the last Bitcoin video I had was here. And I think I got a comment that said, oh, you were wrong on that. Well, no, actually, it wasn't. So let me clarify that. So let me actually go down to the 15-minute for this one. Okay, so the last Bitcoin video, we were right here. And I said this probably looks like a fourth wave. And that's exactly what it was. 1, 2, 3, and now we're in 4. I was expecting 5, and we got 5. The only part I got a little bit wrong was what the correction was, which is a flat. So my whole thinking was, we have A, look how we chopped up. Here's the high, chop, 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 chop up. We broke the high, look at that. But we chopped up. So it didn't convince me that this was going to continue going higher. So what did it do? Well, the idea was we come down for a flat, A, B, C, then we go. That didn't happen. Instead, we consolidated, then continued. So it didn't need to come down, right? But it's still called a flat, right? There's different types of flats. So if I zoom in here, look at this. And I actually talked about this wick right here. 1, A, B, and C. That is a flat, guys. And this wick right here, let me see, let me go to the 5-minute chart. There, you can see it a lot better there, right? So that kicked off this sideways consolidation. Yeah, now flats can come down here. They can go here, right? It depends. You can have an irregular flat, an expanded flat, a running flat. This is more like a running flat, right? Okay, so then what happened? So then we consolidated, right? We had this inverse head and shoulders type of look. So it looked kind of bullish, right? It made you think it was going higher. But instead, we just continued chilling this way. Sorry for the background noise. But yeah, so basically, we had this whole wave is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And during this flat, I was thinking we were going to get another wave. That's what we got. Okay, so now we have 5 waves. So now let's zoom into this wave right here. So let me go to the 5-minute. Let me take this off. Okay, so now we have another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that's the fifth of the fifth of the fifth of the fifth, I guess you could say, of a C wave or a wave 3. So then what did it do? Well, it pulled back and it made you think we're going higher. But look at this. The way you kind of realized it wasn't was you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and look how they're overlapping with each other, and then 5. That is called a diagonal. So when you can Google all these terms. Just go to Google, just type in Elliott wave diagonal pattern, right? It's kind of like a rising wedge in a way, but yeah, it's a diagonal. So we have this up here, right? So then what do we have from a diagonal? Well, a couple things that can happen. You can have a 3-way pullback and then a continuation, or it can be a reversal pattern. So we don't really know yet. Given the fact that we have 5 waves, it's probably gonna cool off in here. But again, TA can go so far because at the end of the day, when you have headlines, Bitcoin 60,000, MSNBC, Fox, it's on the radio, it's on YouTube, it's on Twitter, it's everywhere. Well, eventually, it goes so far, and people FOMO in. But then once everybody's in, there's nobody left to get in, right? Because it's saturated the market. So people who are being sold this idea, this narrative that you should get in, when in reality you should have been in, and if in Bitcoin, and if you're not in Bitcoin, then altcoins would be the best option. I definitely wouldn't want to be in Bitcoin. I know a comment said Not necessarily, when I say a comment, I don't mean comments on my video. Sometimes I do, but I'm just saying I see people commenting that why would I be in Theta when I could have been in Bitcoin? Bitcoin is killing it. Well, let's look at that. Now we're going to get into Theta, but real quick, we'll take it from the top here. Look at this. So if I go down here and I go all the way up to where Bitcoin is now, it's 298%. Okay, so now I'm going to go to Theta. But remember, Theta is all the way down here. Bitcoin's all the way up here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take it from the bottom and I'm going to go all the way up to where it is currently. It's about 230%. So Bitcoin is, we'll give Bitcoin the benefit of that. We'll say 290%. We'll say 300%. Right? So Bitcoin is 300%. And Theta is, we'll say about 240%. So 240% versus 300%. And that's true, Bitcoin is higher. But look where Bitcoin is at. Bitcoin is all the way up here. So why would I want to be in Bitcoin if it's all the way up there? Because Theta is most likely on its way as well up there. And now one of the things I did say from the beginning is if Bitcoin breaks out into a new all-time high, we probably don't need a rise, crash, reaccumulation, sideways breakout. We'll probably range, break out, maybe a little range here, break out, little range there, continue, right? In one wave, but with these little bases in between. So anyway, going back to that comment, if I put a Fibonacci on and I come all the way down, this is how you measure things, right? When people say, you know, I'd rather be in Bitcoin, but look what you're saying here. If Bitcoin is at the 702, let's say Bitcoin is actually past the 786, right? So if I take where Theta is now, or actually from the bottom all the way up to the 786, that's 2,000%. So what would you rather have? Less than 300% or over 2,000%? 2,000%. But you can say, well, yeah, but Theta hasn't done it yet. Exactly. That's the whole point. It hasn't done it yet. So you want to be there for when it happens, right? Not to say that it is going to happen. Just saying that if Bitcoin can hit its retracement levels. So let's see. In order for Theta to hit 300%, it actually did hit 300%, but it pulled back. When it hit $2.30, it did hit 300%. So Theta is barely breaking out of its first base. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is all the way at the top of the range, and it's still, the percentages don't even matter. So I think people think, if something's up here, it must be better and I must be in it. But it's always it's sort of the opposite. You don't want to be in something up here, because if you are currently in something that's up here, then you have to ask yourself, how much more can I get? I've already got X amount. How much more can I get? Right? So Bitcoin probably, if it wants to break out and it's sitting at the above the 786 right here, then it's got basically $100,000. So where's $100,000? How much percent is that? From the bottom, all the way up, that's about 535%. Okay, so if I go to Theta, how much is it from the 1618? That's, oh my God, that's like over 4,000%. Let's just go to 500%. 500% gets us to about $3.42. So what's more probable? Bitcoin hitting 100,000 or Theta getting back to $3.42? Well, they're both in the realm of reach. But if the whole thing is if they're both in the realm of reach and theta does get to this area, then that means it's on its way to go even higher. And if that's the case, it would have crushed Bitcoin in percentage terms. That's why I don't really jive with people like Benjamin Cohen, who is like the Bitcoin dominance guy. The guy is great, by the way. I've watched his channel back in early 2019 when ADA was 2 cents, and I loved his I still like his content, and he's great. I call him the Sheldon Cooper of crypto. He's very intelligent. He has all the data metrics. Very smart guy. And he's right. Bitcoin dominance, that was the play. You wanted to be in Bitcoin. But now the tide is turning. Now you have altcoins breaking out of their bases while Bitcoin is battling an all-time high, right? So if Bitcoin breaks out, the spotlight's going to be on Bitcoin, right? And then, it would prove him right? Because if Bitcoin breaks out, a lot of the alt pairs like the Theta BTC, those pairs might go down momentarily. But as Bitcoin consolidates, that's when they catch up. So for me, the whole thing is when does Bitcoin chill out, right? Because when Bitcoin chills out, that's usually when altcoins start to run. You can see right in here was a little chilling out, and that's when alt started to pop off. Now that Bitcoin sort of popped to the upside, you have various ones that are popping, but I mean, if you look at like Filecoin, it's right on the verge of getting there, right? So once it happens, you're pretty much on the clear for at least $17 to $27. So for Bitcoin, the whole thing is, do we consolidate or do we break out? If we consolidate, alts are where you want to be. If you break out, momentarily you kind of want to be in Bitcoin. But for me, why risk it? Why put yourself in that position knowing that alts are down here and Bitcoin is up here? Yes, if Bitcoin breaks out, you're going to get a pretty nice run. But the thing is we don't know. For me, it's too risky, right? So like if I'm aligning myself with Benjamin, and not knocking the guy, he's great, but let's say I sell my Theta for Bitcoin, and now I'm just going to hold Bitcoin. So at what point does Bitcoin A break out and B consolidate? And then also, how does that interact with Theta? Because it literally takes, a week, less than a week, a couple days. I mean, basically, look what can happen in a whole day, right? Theta can go up 40, 50% in a day, right? So that's where I'm saying it's too risky not to be in Theta, is what I should say. He's saying the alts are too risky. I'm saying they're too risky not to be, not for me to hold them. So, but yeah, I mean, if you look at a lot of alt pairs, like LTC versus BTC, I mean, they're all just capitulating and dumping, but that's when you buy them, right? I mean, I can go through all the alt pairs, right? That's where you start to dollar cost average out of Bitcoin, right? If the alt BTC pairs are capitulating, right, then that's a good thing. That tells us we're at the end, right? Because just look at Bitcoin right here. Here was the capitulation, right? All of this in here, crash, 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 and then bam, we capitulated. But then that marked the bottom. So that's where I believe we're at. We're at probably near the bottom, right? So let's look at Theta BTC. And you could say it's capitulated already. I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like, look at this. We have we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we got 5 waves. Boom. So number 1, we got 5 waves. Number 2, on the bottom of the 5th wave, we have a base. We're developing a base. And when you look inside of that base, what do you see? You see a wonky looking inverse head and shoulders. Now, these alt pairs, BTC pairs, have the strangest looks to them, but you can see it right there. You can see you have your shoulder, you have your head, and you have your shoulder, right? So, and then look at this big engulfing candle. Yes, it's pulled back, but that's fine. It's okay. It's gonna, in my opinion, continue to go. So, let me actually zoom in on this here. And this is going to be a long video because there's a lot to talk about. So, I don't recommend skipping ahead and just, it's important to just, from start A to the finish line, to understand sort of my thought process of what I'm trying to emphasize. So look at the daily chart. You have this beautiful cup, right? You broke above the bull market support band. Yes, you came back below, but look at this. You broke out and you took out this high, right? And it was an impulsive move, right? So what could happen? We can have an A, B, C, right, and meet up with the bull market support band, continue higher, or maybe flag out, continue higher. But either way, I think we're going to continue higher. So why take that risk of being in Bitcoin when Theta versus BTC is already at the bottom? So guys like Benjamin Cohen, like I said, I'm not knocking him. I'm just disagreeing. Actually, I'm agreeing with him up to this point, right? He's still pushing the dominance narrative. And now I'm like, okay, now it's like, no, this is where you want to be in alts, not in Bitcoin. If Bitcoin breaks out, yes, you're gonna want to be in Bitcoin momentarily. But remember, if Bitcoin say goes to 200,000, you have to look at the percentages compared to that, compared to data just getting back, not even to its all-time high, right? I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands of percentages versus, less than 800%. So it's a big difference. And a lot of people aren't experienced in jumping in and jumping out. So it's best to be planted. Stay planted. Don't jump around. Especially, look at this. Theta versus BTC. And of course, it makes you want to quit, right? Because look at this. We're going down, 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 down. It makes you feel like it's never, ever, ever going to stop. That's what it's designed to do. I mean, we've been falling since, when was this? June of 2021, right? So 22, 23, 24. So almost 2.5 years, right? Oh yeah, over 2.5 years. We've been just going down, right? So eventually you reverse. And I think that reverse is happening very, very soon, especially because if I go to the 3-day chart and I put a line right here and I take this line and I put it all the way down, look at this. Why would you not want to be in Theta? Especially Theta versus BTC. Look at this. We break out, right? And we kind of back test a little bit. We're back testing, and then bam, we have that reaction. So now we're sort of in outer space above this downward resistance line, and we're meeting a little bit of resistance right in here, right? And that's okay. So, maybe we flag out a little bit and then continue higher. And then we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a diag, right? And we have some type of diag. We have a 3-way pullback, that back test, and then bam, we start really accelerating. So it can happen fast, it can happen slow, but the point is you don't really know. So it's too risky not to be in Theta, I think. So, but if you want to play it safe, like, Benjamin is a naturally conservative guy, and I respect the guy tremendously. He's an amazing success, very smarter than me by far. I think he's got, I don't know, a PhD or something in physics, or I don't know, but he's very smart, and he has his reasons, and I'm not challenging those reasons. I'm just saying I disagree. For me personally, I want to be in the alts when they go. Now, if you want to be on the more conservative side, then yeah, Bitcoin. But if you're in crypto, you're already taking a risk, right? And if you're betting on Bitcoin to do well, then you might as well bet on the alts. But then you can say, well, yeah, but if Bitcoin doesn't do well, then you want to be in. So basically, if you're betting on Bitcoin, you're betting on the market. You're betting on Bitcoin not doing well. If you're betting on the alts, you're betting on the whole market doing well, right? Because like I've been saying too, and this is going to be a long video, but I think I'm done with Theta BTC. I mean, look at it. You have, just to wrap it up, I don't want to try to make it too long, but basically you have this base, right? You have this flagpole that's planted in the concrete foundation of your base, and then you have this massive sort of, I wouldn't call it a bull flag, but a flag, right? A correction, right? And now you're breaking out of the correction. So look at the angles, right? Look how long this is from here to here, right? So if I take that, that's the same length as about that one, right? So then if I take this one and I put it right there, it's symmetry. That's what we have. We have symmetry. Sideways, up, down, back up, right? Nothing's going to go down forever. Nothing's going to go up forever. We have to reverse. And I think this area where we are right now is that apex of the reversal. So even if I honestly think, I think Benjamin is starting to dollar cost average into altcoins. That's just me personally. But yeah, shout out to his channel, Into the Cryptoverse. I definitely subscribe to his channel and watch his content. Definitely a great guy and somebody you want to have in your arsenal of data. So let's get to Theta now. So look at this. I'm on Theta, and now the video's basically over. We're already at 57 minutes. Wow, crazy. But anyway, let's try to go fast. So I'll probably have to end up making this a two-parter, because if the video goes longer than an hour, just nobody wants to click it. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But maybe since we're bullish, people will click it. But then also too, like a channel like mine, I'm competing with a lot of other channels out there, right? That that are basically striving for your attention. And as the market turns bullish, as Bitcoin hits 60K, there's a lot of people putting out a lot of content, right? So so basically it's saturated with content. And if my videos are so long, then I'm really competing at a disadvantage. So, but hopefully the data and what I present is good enough to keep your attention, especially because there's not a lot of people who are doing Theta videos, at least TA. So I think I got a little niche. We'll see how that long lasts. But anyway, if you made it this far in the video, I'd really appreciate a like and a comment from you. That would be amazing. And let's keep the train rolling. So for Theta, let's just go to the weekly chart, and I'll make it real quick. And then I'll promise I'll get another video out as well. So for me, the big goal for Theta in 3 days. So basically Sunday evening, right? So it's basically Thursday evening. For me, it's Thursday afternoon, but for most of the world, it's Thursday evening. So Friday evening, Saturday evening, Sunday evening. So we have 3 days left. What we want to see is for this candle right here to close above this high. That's the goal. That's basically all I have to say. If that happens, then this is the idea. So let me then zoom in so we can see a little better. Let me go to the daily. And by the way, we have a daily breakout above this close, right? So that's very, very, very good. Very good. And now once you break resistance, then you sort of, you get rejected, right? Because you have even stronger resistance up here. It's all about building volume profiles as you continue to mark up in price. So the hard part was breaking above, and now even a little harder than that is back testing. So it looks like we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with an extended fifth. So you kind of want to see, let me zoom in even further, you want to see a little bit of a correction. Now it looks like we are flagging out here, so that looks pretty good. It looks like we're flagging out. So if I draw this like this, it's really very subjective of how you draw it, but anyway, if you draw something like this, now you could do from the wicks, you can do it from the bodies. It just really depends, but essentially something like this. So we are, in this corrective phase. It looks to me like as far as the short-term analysis, you have this A, B, and a C, but it looks a little too short, right? Obviously, it could, and then of course we'll just keep it this way: A, B, C, 1, 2, and now we're starting our descent, our ascent for a third. Right, we're going to basically continuing to go up. So trying to keep it simple here. If we get a weekly close above this high, then we have an A, B, C. We back test or flag out or some type of little correction, which we're in now. We're in that correction now. Now the correction can happen in a couple hours. It can happen in a couple days. It might take a week. Whatever. The whole point is we got a little correction, and then we're going to continue higher. And to me, that would be a 1, 2, 1, 2, which would be very bullish, right? So let's say we don't. So that's the idea. That's the idea. We have a breakout of our range right here. So this was what we've been waiting for a long time, all throughout in here, since my channel's been active, and even all through here, right? So now that breakout occurs, it was like a massive rush of let's go. So now that you break out, now you want more, right? And that's just the way our psychology works. So for me, I'm saying, hey, I want to go just as bad as anybody else, but if we do get a correction, that would be a good thing. We come back down, we back test this area, and we continue out. So the correction can be an ABC, a little bigger, then continue out. Whatever it is, I think the direction is continuing to remain bullish. So let's say we don't close above. So now let's go back to the weekly chart. So that would be idea number 1. Let's say we don't close above. The weekly candle does not close above this high. That would be a disappointment, but it's fine. Why? Because we already got a big major milestone, which is what? Breaking above this here, which then activated the measured move of this head of the inverse head and shoulders. So obviously you have your shoulder, you have your head, you have your shoulder, right? So if I take this here and I put that right there, right where we broke out at, the measured move is approximately $3.05. So we haven't gotten there yet. We're still below $2. So either way, I think we're going to crush this area here. So if we don't close above this line, and currently we are above it, so basically we have to close above. We don't have to, but $1.66. So let's get above $1.66 and see how that continues to go. We flag out, we go. But if we don't, then we have maybe a bigger correction, and we back test this area right here. All this right in here. That's our big area of support, because usually when you break out of something like this, you typically want a back test. If you don't get a back test, that's okay, right? That's fine. But usually you break out, back test, go, right? So that's usually the way it would go. So you have an A, B, C, you back test it. You're back testing all of this support in here. So this was your resistance. You broke out of resistance, and now you're back testing previous resistance to make it the new support. Then you get a really raging bullish move, and that would be a better 1 2 1 2. A 1 2 1 2 is very bullish. Usually you get 1 2 3 4 5, right? But if you get a 1 2 1 2, then the third gets really big, 4 5, and then you get another 4 5, something like that. So think about it like this: a big pullback to $1.30, or actually $1.40, even $1.50. So between $1.30 and $1.50 would actually be very bullish, because think of it like a slingshot, right? You're pulling back your sling, and then you release, and the stone takes off 100 miles an hour, right? So the bigger the pullback, the more impulsive that following wave can be. So if you don't get a big pullback, it still doesn't mean you can't climb really high, right? Because this thing can just continue pumping to the upside, right? So, and that's sort of what I'm thinking here, is if we break out, remember, this is the weekly chart. So just because it's a straight line doesn't mean you don't have consolidation phases in something, for example, like the daily or smaller than that. So, and it really depends too on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin breaks out into a new all-time high, you might have this sort of lag around with an upward drift. But if Bitcoin starts to consolidate, then you're going to get a better, definitely a better momentum, right? More momentum to the upside. So let's just do a little work on this wave. Obviously, this was from an Elliott wave perspective. Obviously, you have a 1, 2, and 3. Maybe we get 4 and 5, something like that. Now, it can happen in so many different ways. You can say that this is a 1, A, B, C, 2, right? And now we're in 3. Let's do a little work on the third wave. So again, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with an extended fifth. So you want to see a little correction and then a continuation. Now it can play around in here a lot, or it can go down and back test this area. Either way, I think we're on our way higher. So now let's look at the target area here. So if I take this Fibonacci extension and I put it from the bottom here, and then I can take it all the way to the top of this, and I'm going to pull it all the way down to the bottom. Now there's two different ways you can hit it. Look where we hit. We had a perfect. That was the target. I can't remember. I think that was mentioned when I was talking about this bull market support band in here. I said, so if this is the low, we didn't know if it was a low, but now it definitely is a low. Basically took this extension here, I'll have to find that video too. And then we bring it down to the bull market support band. I said probably got a $2.31 target of the 1618. Look at that. Look where we topped out at. That was a perfect hit. So now the target has been hit. So now, it deserves a correction. Now it can continue higher in its targets, but statistically you want some type of consolidation. And if we don't get it, then hey, then we're pleasantly surprised. So I think most people pull their fibs like this, a regular Fibonacci. They'll put it down right here and they'll go down there. And in that case, we hit the 2618 2.272. But since this is a trending move, you want to use a trend-based Fibonacci, right? So from here, now if it gets a little interesting, because if this is a B wave, you can actually put it here and then come down to here, right? So then in that case, we hit the 2.272. But usually I like to put it at the top, regardless if it's a B wave or not. And yeah, look at that, $2.32. Perfect hit. So if I put it on log scale, we have a 1-to-1 extension. So we also hit the 1-to-1 extension. So the next target would be that $3 area. Okay, so now we got rid of all that. If you want more information on a lot of how we got to this, just definitely check out previous videos. But basically was saying, look, this is Wyckoff in here. We had the spring, we have the breakout, we back tested the bull market support band. I said many times as we're back testing, this is a very good thing. We can either A, B, C go, or we can just continue rising on up, which is exactly what we did. We broke out of here, we broke out of here, right? So now the next thing would be to either flag out, continue higher, or back test and continue higher. Everybody wants it to go now, flag out and hurry up, but for me, I'd kind of want it to pull back and back test in here. That way we can get a 1-2, 1-2, and then that way this 3-4, the third wave will be a lot more intense, especially 4-5, 4-5 as well. And then also looking at the EMA ribbon, this is very interesting here. Look at this. We broke through all the EMA ribbons, we back tested them, and now they're all crossing over bullishly. Look at all those crosses. They're all crossing, and the point is the angles too, the angles of it. A lot of people talk about like a bullish cross and things like that, or a golden cross or a death cross, but a lot of people don't have the directions of the angles, right? So like if you have like a moving average like this, and then you have it cross below, right, then it's it's okay, it's bullish. But if you had something like this where they're both crossing each other, but the angle of the cross, they're both angled upwards. I know I'm not drawing it good, but essentially they're both angled up, right? So the angle, if the moving average is angled down, or if the moving average is angled up. So moving averages can cross each other angled up or angled down. So that's a big thing to keep an eye on when you see crosses. Okay, now next up is the Bollinger Bands. This is very bullish here. Look at this. You could see how back when we started our ascent up here, you could see the upper band, right? The price breaks through, and then the lower band starts to come down. So, and that's kind of what's happening now. You can see the price on that upper part of the band, and now it's getting through it, right? So that's good to see. This, I usually, when I do the indicators, oscillators, I like to look at the weekly chart for the big picture. I mean, even the monthly chart looks pretty good. And then going to the monthly chart on the sequential, look at this. This is also very important. The monthly chart, and this is sort of the grand finale. The monthly chart ends in 2 hours and 48 minutes of the time of recording this video, and that's sort of a lot of things people don't know. And by the way, happy leap year. Today is February 29th. I think that happens once every 2 years or 4 years or something like that. So where we have basically an extra day. So look at this. We have a monthly 9 buy. Look at this. We have a monthly 9 buy which printed these red dots. And now, check this out. We have this candle that's breaking above the red dots. And it's about to close above this area. So the monthly chart triumphs all charts, right? So we want to close above $1.71 by the time the weekly or the monthly chart ends. So this is a big deal, right? Big deal. So if I turn on the RSI, look at the RSI, angled up. Look at the MACD. Let me get rid of that. Look at this. The MACD looks even better than it did before. You see that angle here? See how it angled a little bit slanted? Now it's angled even way higher. So you could see both moving averages are pointed up, which is what you want to see. You see the histogram parabolic, or I should say engulfing these two, which is what we want to see. We also see, this engulfing monthly candle that came off of the bull market support band that's breaking above the red dots, above the 9 buy, and the candle ends very, very soon, right? You also see the Bollinger Bands. You also have the stock RSI getting up there. People think, oh, it's overbought, but actually it's really not. It can stay up there for a while. If we go to the 2-week chart, you can see, look how it sort of oscillates at the top on the bull run. And that's sort of what we can see now. See how it's oscillating sort of at the top? We can oscillate at the top. So here we have the Ichimoku cloud, and I'm just running through a bunch of indicators. Get rid of that, and let me get rid of that. There we go. So the Ichimoku cloud, I'm not a really big Ichimoku guy, but look at this. We have completely broken above the cloud right here. So you can see this red cloud, the red cloud of doom, and we broke above it. And we back tested it. But then here's the cool part. Look at this. We flipped from red days, from depressing gray, that gray cloud to green, right? So the grass is greener on the other side. So we got to the other side. Now look at this. It's flipping to the upside. So yeah, it's looking really good. We want to keep it that way. Check this out. We also broke above the Lucid SAR, back above on the weekly, which is good. You can see here we broke above it. So basically, I just call them stars. So when we're below the stars, we're bearish. When we're above the stars, we're bullish. You can see we broke above. We have a little correction. Then we came back below the stars. Now the price engulfed, broke out, and now look at this. 1, 2. We have 2 stars on the bottom. That's good. If I go to the monthly chart, it paints a better picture here. Look at that. I mean, if there's any chart in crypto, it's this one right here. I mean, look at that. You have a perfect bull run, right? All the stars are below. Then look how nice and orderly they are. It's like a perfect uniformed structure of stars, right? And it got all the way back here, and then bam, that's where we met up with the star. We broke above it. and now the stars are on the bottom. So this thing is looking really bullish from a monthly perspective. I mean, especially this monthly MACD down at the bottom here. Really nice to see that. So there you go. I mean, if you want me to tell you it's bullish, it's bullish. It's very bullish. Okay, so moving along to the EMAs. So basically we have the 20, the 50, the 100, and the 200. And look at this. The price broke above the 20 and the 50, and it back tested it. And now it is breaking above the 100, and it's breaking above the 200 EMA, the exponential moving average. It's breaking above all the major ones. So right here we have a cross, and you can see how they're both angled up, which is good. But here's the thing. Look at, you can see these two moving averages are pointing up, but look at the 100. The 100 is still angled down, and the 200 is still angled down. So here's the thing. When we are 100% fully bullish, it's called consensio. Consensio is basically saying all moving averages are pointing up. I'll give you an example on the lower time frame, and you want that on the daily. Let's see. Let's go to the 4-hour. So this is kind of like an example of consensio. You can see here they're all angled up, right? You have them, the short term, right? Medium, long term, right? And they're all angled up, right? As the price is above all of them. And that's sort of consensio, especially on the monthly and the weekly. Now, when you go to the 4-hour chart, they go back and forth. But as an example, you can see here. So let's look at this example. So at what point were they all angled up? Well, it looks like, if we can say that this is our range, our long-term range, right? You can start to see they actually were all angled up as we started breaking out. So yeah, so we want to see them. We want to see, let me go down to, let's go to the 3-day. Yeah, and they're starting to get angled up. We just have one more. It's starting to, if I zoom in here, yep, look at that. It's starting to angle up. So that's good. So if I take this and I make this bigger, so we're basically at the brink, at the cusp of an even bigger breakout for the price of theta. So yeah, that should be it for me. Again, what do I think is going to happen in the short term? Very hard to say. Obviously, we had a pullback. Let's see how much we pulled back. I think we were at 231, and now we're approximately at, we had almost a 20% pullback. So that's not bad. That's actually good. I mean, this is crypto. You got to expect volatility. If you're new to crypto, and a 20% pullback is nothing. So looking at the shorter time frames, again, like on the 45-minute, 30-minute chart, we have, it looks like a 1 2 3, a 1 2 3. Okay, and then we have a 1 2 3. So it looks like a WXY, right? And now we're sort of going flat. We're ranging in here. So it's very hard to predict things like that in the short term. That's not really my style. So I would say, hey, watch this range. If we break below the range, that's fine, because then it's starting off, it's giving us more of a chance to have a better pullback into a back test, right? A back test. And then that back test also prints a 1 2 1 2, which is very bullish. So I would look for, if we do pull back, somewhere in here, right? So around that $1.41, 151 area, and then also right in there about $1.65. So are we going to get that deep of a pullback? Maybe, maybe not. Either way, it don't matter, because this is the beginning of us breaking out. And remember, this is the monthly chart. Now let me go back to the monthly real quick. I know I'm jumping around a lot. Let's see here, monthly. Look at this. We have a number one, we have a monthly engulfing candle. That's very, very good. So all we want to do from a monthly perspective, from a close perspective, is close above $1.34, which is, to me, totally in the books, right? So, you know, we're up here. We can, worst case, come all the way back down and back test. 1, 2, 1, 2, and then continue higher. And this pullback could resonate with a Bitcoin handle, right? So Bitcoin is also, so wow, look at this. I didn't even realize this. So Bitcoin could also have a monthly all-time high. Wow, look at this. I didn't even, look at this. So here's the monthly candle for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin can close the month above 61,359, wow, then it would be the highest monthly close in the history of Bitcoin. And it would constitute as a monthly sort of breakout from a close perspective. So that's very interesting. So we're right there. We're so close. Wow, look at that. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. So all we got to do is close 0.03%. This is nuts right here. Let's see if that's possible. So we have 2.5 hours from the time of me recording this video. If we close above, I think we have a good chance at doing it. I think the market makers are going to push it up just to get that headline, right? To create more FOMO. 61,000. That would be the highest monthly close in the history of Bitcoin if we can close above it. If we do that, then yeah, Bitcoin's probably on its way. If not, and we get a little correction here, maybe a little handle, maybe it's a big handle, maybe it's a flag out and a continuation, or maybe we just slice right through it. But notice one thing, this is going up, 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 up. If we don't, and you know, if this turns into some type of, again, rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, either way, if we reaccumulate up here or even come back down here, it's very hard to know. But for me, we got through all the retracement levels. It looks like it wants to break out into a new all-time high. I don't know what else you want me to say. It looks like a brand new all-time high is on the horizon. The question is, are we going to get any resistance at the all-time high? Is there any resistance that is coming in here? If yes, then that's cool. That's no problem. We just have a little handle in here or some type of flag or whatever. But yeah, keep an eye on that. If we can get the monthly close above that, that would be an amazing thing. And it might vary on different exchanges. If not, then you know, we have a whole other month to get it done. And I think Alessio Restani put out a video that's saying March is typically bearish for crypto. It's typically, and for all markets, it's typically sort of a downward sort of sideways month. You know, usually February is very bullish, and March is sort of that pulling back. And then you also have to take into account, look how many green candles we had. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We have 6 monthly green candles. So when are we going to get a red one? I mean, as it goes higher, the statistical probability of us getting a red candle next month is getting more increased. But that's okay. That's okay. That's what you would expect, right? When you get up to an all-time high, right? So, I mean, look at over here. Pretend that this was the all-time high or the swing high, right? Somewhere up in here. You can see what happened. You can see the price came up, right? And then the next candle was a doji, and then the next candle was red. So we sort of went up into the resistance, and then we pulled back We had a little pullback and then a continuation. So that might happen here. We might get maybe a doji, right? And then a red candle and then a continuation. Hard to know exactly. So going back to theta, and I was going to try to get theta fuel in here too, but man, I'm already at an hour and a half. So for theta, yeah, we got the monthly in the bag, right? So where would the target then be? The target would be, well, not the Fibonacci target, but basically the next area of resistance would be in this box right here, which we already hit, right? And then the next one after that would be this box right here. So yeah, we got a little work to do, but it looks like we're on our way. I mean, look at this. This downward resistance sign, a perfect back test. The moving averages are all crossing over. We held the mean, we broke out, held the top of the downward resistance. Now we're engulfing up. Now we just gotta play it, you know, and hodl. For me, I'm hodling until we get into the retracement levels and then figure out what Bitcoin's doing. But like I said, if Bitcoin breaks out into a new all-time high, very, very good chance that theta can as well. And this could happen fast. This can happen very fast. It can happen like very fast. So we can get something like that, like within a matter of a month or two, and we can already be at an all-time high. So it can happen rather quickly, right? So we'll see how that plays out. But for me, it's about directional. And since back over here, my direction has been, we got to get up there. Once we get there, then we reevaluate. But so far, we've been on track since basically since I've been making these videos. So yeah, let's keep going. Now, when you look at something like Total 3, it is running into major resistance right in here. So all this right in here is pretty strong resistance. So the next area would be somewhere up in here, right? So you would expect a little bit of resistance, especially, let me put this here, trend-based fib extension, and I'll put it from the top of here. And the Total 3 is basically all the market cap of everything. So basically we hit the 2, so we're pretty far up there. I would like it to hit the 2618. Somewhere up in here, right? But yeah, the resistance is getting a little strong, and we have all these green candles, so don't be surprised if we get some sideways or some pulling back. That doesn't mean theta has to, right? Because they all pop off at different times. For example, look at theta fuel. We are on the verge of a monthly breakout for theta fuel. If the candle can close above, let's just say 6 cents, it looks like it's going to happen, then theta fuel is on its way for a big retracement. And theta fuel has more room to go, because if you look here, that's sort of where the first area of resistance is, because look, it sliced through that like butter, and then it sliced through down. So there's this gray area in here. And if we're approaching the gray area, then what? Then if I take a measured, or if I take a percentage to where we are now, and I go all the way up, that's a 65% move, and then that would be almost 100%. So this thing can double in value within a matter of a week or two if we can get this close, right? So let me actually go to the weekly chart here for theta fuel, spend a little time. If you're still with us, appreciate that. I know it's a long video, but it's a lot of information. Class is not dismissed yet, so stay in your seat. So we have, same thing like with theta. We have this beautiful Wyckoff right here, right? We have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's break out and then have our little correction. Maybe we can back test this area. Back testing is always a really, really good thing. Anytime you break out. So typically what would happen here what I could totally see happening is us breaking out and getting up to about 10 or 11 cents. Once we get there, then we can come back down and back test that 7 cent area. Not for sure, but we have a 1, 2. Let's get up here to 3, right? A, B, C. Back test all of this in here, 4, and then we get our 5 and back up into the retracement levels. And I think Theta Fuel has a very good chance of getting above this, which is about 23 cents. That's pretty nice. It's pretty big for Theta Fuel. I think someone said the ratio for Theta and Theta Fuel was pretty high. So to swap some Theta Fuel, but now since it pumped, it's then caught back up. So we'll see. We'll see how that ratio continues to go. But yeah, still nothing's changed. Looking for, this is our bottoming structure. I remember a lot of people think we were going down. I thought we were, we all thought this was a beautiful Wyckoff bottom that is entitled to a retracement, especially now since Bitcoin is chilling at its all-time high, near its all-time high. So yeah, that'll do it for this video. I'm gonna wrap it up right here. I'll probably do another rapid fire session sometime in over the next few days, and keep an eye on this market. And yeah, let's look at the small time frame real quick. Yeah, so we are pulling back a little bit, but you can see I like how the markets do that. So see how it's slanted, right? You have like a phase 1, and then it sort of angles up a little bit more, and then it angles up higher, right? So it starts off running and then inclining and then like really inclining. Usually when that happens is it's the beginning of something bigger, right? So you get these little pullbacks and then you can go up. So what you can do is kind of draw like a parabola. Let me try to do that. So if I pull this parabola up like this, now it's a little subjective of how you want to put it, but basically, something like that. So you draw that up. So basically you just want to stay above this area. So we can consolidate through time, or we can consolidate through price. Usually, you can either, like I said, consolidate through time or price, or both, right? You come back down somewhere on this area, then continue higher. So we got plenty of wiggle room, plenty of room to breathe. Let's keep the momentum going. We are heading into the weekend. We do have the monthly close. So will we get a big weekend pump, or will it be more of a pullback? I tend to think probably more of a pullback, only because I'm conservative. I just want to stay in that conservative lane, and if we do get a big pump, hey, I will gladly take it. So yeah, that'll be it for this video. Apologize that it was so long, but just think about it this way. It's 2 videos. I put 2 videos into 1 video, right? So instead of being at 2 hours, it's only actually 1 hour and 38 minutes, right? So if you divide that, well, that actually equals 2 50-minute videos. So you got a good price. You got 2 for 1 there. No, but seriously, guys, thank you guys. I appreciate you for watching. I know a few people have been asking for a tip jar. I don't really like doing that. I mean, I don't have ads, but I think I might consider it. I mean, it does take a lot of time and energy and to get these going, and I'm not sure how to go about doing that. I know some people have Patreon. Some people do different ways. There is an address in the comment description below if you wanted to support the channel. But the problem is you can't really copy and paste. So that's, you would have to type in each letter and number and double check and triple check. And it's kind of, it's not really feasible, right? So if there's any, I mean, I guess I can put it on Twitter if you want to, but I mean, the best way to support the channel is just to throw up a thumbs up and drop a comment. Is always good for the algos, especially a small channel like mine. And given the fact that this is a a theta driven channel primarily, I do theta XRP and Bitcoin primarily. So let's get the word out for theta, because we're all competing for people's attention, right? And when you have all these Ethereum videos and Bitcoin videos, and you don't really see any Litecoin videos anymore like you used to. But it's mostly like Solana and Matic, the popular coins, the meme coins, right? But not too many theta. So if we want to change that, then a thumbs up is always good, right? Because then it kicks into the algorithm. The more people see theta, right, the better it is for it to sort of have that, going back to like Cliff Eye, that predictive linguistic, that digital language that sort of expands to people's reach, right? Because there might be people out there that don't even know theta exists, right? So we want to make a dent in the crypto YouTube universe that, hey, theta is here and it is not to be messed with. Okay, guys, I will catch you on the next one. Cheers.